Guys, today should be a fun one. We're going to dig into what rentals are costing right now and what the equivalent would be if you were to purchase a home. Stay tuned.
You better get fired up.
All right, so what I want to do, and I do this a lot of times with clients, right? If they're on the fence of, hey, should I buy? Should I rent? I don't know which makes more sense. Long term, and by long term, I mean 2.5, 3.5 years, it always makes sense to buy. I rarely see situations, and when I say rarely, I mean 1-2% of the time or less, see situations where it makes sense to rent if you're going to be there for 2.5, 3.5 years or more. The reason I say 2.5 to 3.5 years is I actually I nerded out on a Excel spreadsheet when I was in the Army because we would move a lot, right? You're moving every 2, 3, 4 years in the Army. And I would make a spreadsheet and I would add in all the assumptions. How's the market going to do? What am I going to pay for this home? What are closing costs going to be? What's my rental going to be? How much is my rental price going to go up every year? All the different assumptions. And I found that anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5 years was kind of the break-even point. If it was less than 2.5 years where I was going to live somewhere, it always made sense to rent, assuming I'm not going to keep it and rent it out, right? If I was going to be there for more than 3.5 years, it always made sense to buy. It was at 2.5, 3.5 years, which unfortunately in the Army, that's almost every single move you make. That's where it's kind of a gray area, and it depends, right? That's the depends area. But if you're less than 2.5, always rent. If you're more than 3.5, always buy. That was the logic that I sold myself on because of the numbers I found in that Excel spreadsheet. So I want to go through I'm just going to give one example of what I could do for you if you're a buyer or a renter and you're on the fence about which you should do. This is exactly what I'm going to do with you. Okay, so I'm going to come in and let's share screen. Entire screen. Hit this magical button here. Hit share. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen right now. Okay, so this is the MLS. I'm going to go through Port St. Lucie, and I'm just going to find a very particular house, just a normal house, something most people would be interested in. Let's come down to rental. Sorry about that. Lucie, Port St. Lucie, and we're going to look for, it's got to be a single family home, and let's say it's got to have 1,800 to 2,000 square feet. And total bedrooms has to be, let's just say 3. And what do we got? 33 of them. And let's just say we're looking at, does it have age? I never do rentals. So I am not, okay, here we go. Year built, let's say it was built in 2000 or newer. Does that, okay, 27 homes. All right, let's be a little more particular. 2010 or newer. There we go. We got 9. Okay. So 2010 or newer, 3 bedrooms, 1,800 to 2,000 square feet, and it is a current rental in Port St. Lucie. You can see a lot of them are on the west side of 95. I'm guessing this is mostly tradition. Oh, you know what? I want to make sure it's not in a 55 plus. All right, now we're down to 6. I think there were some down there. So we got 1, 2, 3 over here on the west side of 95, 1 in the heart of Port St. Lucie, 1 over near River Park, and then 1 on the southeast side down by the St. Lucie River. Let's look at what our prices are. Okay, so we've got, let's put these in order of highest to lowest, 2,500 to 3,500, with the median being about 27 and a quarter. Let's see what these two in the median are, just so we can kind of see what we're going to compare ourselves to. This is in Copper Creek, which is a little out west. I don't want to use that one because these homes will typically sell for a little bit less because it's so far outside of town. So let's look at this one instead. Okay, so here we go. Normal looking house, nothing spectacular about it. It's got updated flooring. Again, it was built in 2010 or newer. We'll look at the specific age here in a second. Looks like it's got granite countertops, base granite, base cabinets, base stainless steel appliances, no washer dryer. You got to get your own. Carpet in the bedrooms. Okay. All right. We got carpet in the bedrooms. Got it. No fenced in backyard. And you're looking at $2,650. Okay. That's $2,650. Let's see what we were looking at specifically here. So this was built, it's got 1851 on the square footage, and it was built in 2023. So it's 2 years old. Okay. So let's go find something very similar. And again, that's going to be $2,650 to rent that, right? And I'm guessing you're going to need first month's, last month's, and deposit. Meaning, I think I can do this in my head, but just in case, I think it's $79.50 times 3 is, so you're going to need $79.50, and there's probably some sort of application fee or something like that. Yeah, you can see a pet fee right here is $500. It says an application fee is 0, so that's good news. So we'll just keep it right at $79.50. We're going to assume you do not have pets. If you have pets, it gets a lot more expensive very quick. So now we're going to come into Port St. Lucie and we're going to look at homes for sale. Okay. And we're going to look at type, single family, and we're going to look at total bedrooms 3 and year built. We did have 2010. Let's see if we can keep that in there. And then 55 plus, no. Now we got a lot more options. We got 240, right? So I can be very specific. That one was built in 2023. So let's look 2022 to 2024. How does that? Okay, 99. Okay, now we'll be. Oh, I didn't put square footage in here. Let's come to square footage. That one was 1851. Let's go 1751 to 1951. What does that do? We got 7. Beautiful. Okay, so let's take a look at these. And when we price these out, and these are asking prices. That doesn't mean they're sold prices. They're asking prices, but it's going to be close. Homes are selling for like 96, 97% ask. We've got 420, 440, 455, 460, 45, 45, 49. So the median is going to be this 460. Now, this is on a busier street. Bayshore is on a busier street. So if we get rid of the busy streets, the median is 45. But let's see what 45 gets us. I want to see that it's hope. Yeah, see, this is already a nicer house. We got a tile roof here. We got a nicely pavered driveway. This, I guarantee, is in some sort of nice HOA. Ravella, there you go. Granite, more open. The other one had nice flooring, but it had carpet in the bedrooms. This one has... Oh, are we going to see the bedrooms? Okay, it's got carpet as well. But this, I mean, just this one's better. So let's go look at one of the other ones. I don't want to use that one because it's on a busy street. Let's look at this one. This is not on a busy street. Okay, basic house, kind of like the other one. Not a big fan of all these stains. It's going to hold them back. But let's take a look at what we got inside. They do have a fence, but it's not their fence, right? So it's not a fully fenced in yard. Okay, they got carpet in the dining. Yeah, this is not as nice. So it's probably going to be a little bit more than this, a little bit less than this one. So this is 440. The one that was nicer was 485. So we could say about 460 is where you're going to be on a purchase. Okay, about 460. So now we're going to come in and let's just look up. That's not going to be fair. We're going to do this a different way. So we got a 460 price tag. Okay. Now I'm going to assume that you are not a veteran. If you're a veteran, you don't have to put anything down and you could potentially ask the seller to cover your closing costs. You have to negotiate that they have to accept it. But right now, a lot of sellers, I would say more than 50%, are willing to cover all or some of your closing costs. Okay. But a lot of you are not going to have that option. You're probably going to go with an FHA 3.5% down. So let me get out my trusty calculator here. 3.5% down. Times 460. Man, I am jacking this up. There we go. Is 16,100. And then you're going to have about, it's dependent on a lot of different things, but I'm going to guess about 3.5% in closing costs. You can get the seller to cover that on every home. No, but if you're willing to say, hey, I would buy any one of these 3 or 4 homes, Joe, it's more important to me that we don't pay closing costs. One of them, maybe 2 of them, maybe 3 of them will pay for your closing costs. So I'm not going to count that. So you need 16,100 to get in on that. You need 7,900 to get in on the rental. So already off the bat, it's roughly $8,000 more out of pocket up front to get into an ownership position rather than a rental. So that's one mark for rental. Now let's look at the monthly. Okay. So I'm going to do, and I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to share screen again. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to Google mortgage calculator. Okay. And we're going to put in here a home value of 460, a down payment of 3.5%, and an interest rate. They've got it at 648. Let's look up today's average FHA mortgage rate. And this isn't perfect. And it's dependent upon your specifics, which we're not going to get. But okay, so it's saying 7. Let's say what bank rate says. Bank rate is saying yeah, that's not correct. That's not right. I know what they're doing. All right, let's go back and look at another one. I think 7 is high. I really do. Yeah, this is saying lower. Why is it bringing me down there? This, okay, so 30-year fixed, 30-year FHA 609. Is that right? Okay, let me look at one. I have a lender who sends me a DM every single Monday, and it's got the updated numbers. Okay, so the last one he sent me, FHA. Okay, he said 6 1/8. So let's use 6 1/8. So if we're at 6.125, that's better than I thought it was. 30 years. Property tax on a $460,000 home. It didn't have a pool. I'm guessing you're going to be right around probably $3,000, maybe 3,200. We'll go on the high end. We'll say 3,200. Okay. You're going to have PMI. I don't know if it's 0.5%, but that seems fair. It's auto-loaded. We'll use that. Home insurance. I'm sorry. That's what I meant was 3,200. Your property tax on 460 is probably going to be about, give me a second here. This is assuming you homestead it. Times 0.9 minus 50,000, 364. Okay, so I'm that much. So 0.857. If you're homestead, I'm guessing you're going to be around $7,100. Whoops. Let's punch it in over here. Oh, man, I was just looking at my light and now I'm blind. Okay, so boom, loan type, FHA, calculate. So you've got a payment with your PMI of 3,740. Is that exact? No, it's not exact. Again, you're going to want to talk with your lender and everything else. That's compared to the 2,650 of a rental that's similar. So your payment on a similar home is going to be about $1,100 more. Your out of pocket is going to be about $8,000 more. And you're going to be in roughly the same home, but you're in an ownership position instead of a rental position. Now, I'm not going to get into the, hey, you're making money because the home is going up in value. Hey, you're paying down your mortgage instead of the other person's mortgage. Hey, you're getting all these tax benefits. I'm not going to go through all that. I've gone through that in another video. But what I would say is that if you wanted the 2,650, and this is a real crude way to do this, so it's not going to be perfect. But if you wanted the 2,650, 2,650 is, oh, that's not right. What did I do there? 2,650 divided by 3,740. It is 70.85% of the 3,740. So multiply that by the 460 price tag we're at. Again, this isn't perfect, but that would mean you could go shopping for a roughly $325,000 home. So you can get the rental that's probably worth about 460, and it's going to be $8,000 out of pocket, and you're going to pay $2,650 a month. Or you could buy a home in Port St. Lucie for $3.25. It's going to be a lesser home. It's not going to be as nice. It's not going to be a bad home. I've seen them. It's probably going to be dated. Maybe it's got a revamped kitchen. Maybe they redid the flooring, something like that. But the whole thing is not going to be redone more than likely. But you're going to pay roughly the same, $2,650. And your out of pocket on 3.25 is going to be 11.3, let's call it 11.4 instead of 8,000. So $3,400 more, the same payment. It's a little lesser house, but you're in an ownership position. Okay. So now you are taking advantage of all those things we're saying. Again, on a $325,000 home, if homes go up roughly 3% a year, 3-4% is pretty normal. 3% a year, you're looking at $10,000 a year. That home is going up. Boom, 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 boom. Every year, no. Some years prices are going to drop. Some years are going to go up 20%. But on average, over the span of 10, 20, 30 years, 3%, 4%, 3%, 4%, right around there. Boom, boom, every single year. You're making roughly $10,000 doing nothing. Same monthly payment. Yeah, it costs you a little bit more cash out of pocket, but that, what did I say, $79.50 cash out of pocket for a rental? Poof, gone. It's gone. You'll never get it back. It's gone. You might as well light it on fire. That, what did I say, 11,004? That is your money. You used it to take your $325,000 mortgage and pay it down 11,000. So now you don't owe 325. You've got a property worth 325, but you owe, now I got to do math, roughly 314. So you've got 11 grand of equity already built in. All right. So you're getting the 10 grand given to you on average in growth of your asset. Your asset's going up every single year. I'm going to come back to this calculator and it says, man, I'm still blind from looking at my lights. Where's the amortization schedule? I bet it's up here. What I'm trying to see is, here it is, how much you are paying in principal. Here's the amortization schedule. Why won't you show me? Why is it not breaking it down? Here it is. Okay, so principal, you're paying why isn't it telling me? Let's do this. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so your monthly, is this going to break it down? Please break this down. Annual payment after, no, don't care about that. Don't care about that. What am I paying down? Man, I've seen this before. Here it is. Show monthly. Let's see what this does. It's still not doing it. Well, I'm going to make this. Okay, I don't have to make this up. Here we go. So on year one, you owe $442,160. On the next year, it's $436,700. So that is roughly $3,300 plus 21. That's 54-ish, 5,400. So not only are you building up roughly 10 grand a year in growth, but you're paying down roughly 5,400 in your first year. And every year you pay down more. So if you're paying 54 the first year, maybe you pay 57 the second year. In the third year, you pay $6,000. In the fourth year, you pay 6,400 until the last year, the overwhelming majority of your payment is principal. So you're making roughly 15 grand, assuming the market only goes up 3%, which again, it could go up, it could go down, it could go up massively, but it's going to average about 3-4% a year over time. And you're going to pay down your mortgage, which at a minimum gets you another $5,000 plus. That's $15,000. We haven't even talked about tax incentives. And it only cost you an additional $3,000 out of pocket, and you've got the same doggone payment. And then let's talk about you in 6, 7, 8 years. 6, 7, 8 years from now, let's go look at your rent. Because a lot of people will say, but yeah, I don't have to pay insurance. I don't have to pay taxes. Well, you do. You do have to pay insurance and taxes. And if you're an HOA, you're paying an HOA. You call it rent, but the landlord looks at his principal, his interest, HOA, taxes, insurance, maintenance, all of it. Then he adds an extra 100, 200, 300 a month for profit. Otherwise, why would he do this? And then that's what he charges you. Right? So you're paying it. So when taxes, insurance, HOA go up, yours is going to go up too. So the average rent will also go up 3 or 4% a year. So if you're paying $2,650 times 1.0, let's just go 3 times 1.03, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, let's just go 6 years. Now in 6 years, you're paying $3,160 a month. And the year before, you were probably paying around $3,050 or whatever it was, right? Your payment's going up. Now, your taxes and insurance are also going up with a house, but your principal and interest never change. That's why you've got a grandfather who's 79 years old, and his payment is $900. And you're like, Grandpa, you got a $500,000 home. How are you paying $900? It's not fair. It's going to be that same way for you. Yeah, it's, what did we say, $2,650? And that sounds really high now, but in 20, 30 years, an average house payment is not going to be $2,650. It's going to be 10 grand. And your grandkids are going to say, oh my gosh, my grandpa, my grandma, they got a $2,600 payment. It's crazy. And you're going to think, no, it's not. It's normal. And it's not going to be $2,650. It's probably going to be $3,500 because your taxes and insurance are going to go up. But it ain't going to be $10,000. If you rent, it goes up every single year. And at some point, if you buy, when you buy, that's when all the goodness starts happening for you. That's when you start paying down that mortgage, your mortgage, not your landlord's mortgage. That's when you start getting that appreciation, that 3 to 4% on average every single year. That's when you get all the tax benefits. And that's when your payment creeps up a little bit every year through taxes and insurance, while rent goes up at a much greater rate. Because you are keeping the same principal and interest that you had on day one, whether it's, year 10, year 20, year 30 down the road. And now 6, 8 years down the road, when you go to sell, you're going to sell that $325,000 property for maybe $450,000. Well, let's look that up. What would it be after 6 years? 1.03. We're just going to take 3% times 325. Okay, times 1.03. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. You're selling it for 388. 388. So 388 minus 3.25. You've got 63,000 of equity built in. That's what a renter does not have. And you might say, well, Joe, I'm going to have to pay closing costs and everything else. You're right. And usually on the list side, I always tell people you're going to pay about 7.75%. It's probably closer to 7.5%. But with all the things included, about 7.5%. So 388 times 0.925 minus the 3.25 you paid for it. You're going to get a check at closing. This is assuming prices go up 3% a year. You're going to get a check at closing after paying all your closing costs for $34,000. That's after 6 years. If you go 10, 15, 20, that number gets astronomically bigger. Right? That's assuming you haven't paid a dime off on your mortgage, which you have. Right? Remember, when you're paying rent, you pay the landlord's mortgage down, but you've been paying your mortgage down. Now, I said that was around what, $5,300 a year, and it's going to get bigger, but let's just use $5,300. So that's $15,900 every 3. That's $31,800 over 6 years. So plus $31,800. Now your check just turned into $65,000, $66,000. Forget all the tax benefits. That's icing on the cake. You're getting a check for $65,000, $66,000 at closing. And if you rent, you're going to walk and you might get your $2,650 deposit back if you're lucky. And that's assuming you don't move multiple times. Renters tend to move every year or two. Doesn't mean you can't stay somewhere for 5, 10 years, but that seller can do anything. They can kick you out. They can find a new tenant. They can sell, whatever. When you own your property, you're in control. You lead the way. So now you've got moving costs. You've got days you got to take off of work. You're losing all that money. It is so much more money. I know that I'm a realtor and you're thinking Joe wants to sell houses. I do. But that's not why I do this stuff, man. I want to see you guys win. I want to see you succeed. And I know financially, I know it's scary, especially if you've never done it. And I know it sounds like, oh my God, 11 grand is so much more than 8 grand. It's not. It's not. If you're saving $500 a month, it's an extra 6 months of saving. It's going to drastically change your life. To wait 6 months and save to drastically change your life is a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. So guys, if you want me to run these numbers for you, I'm happy to do it. I want to see you winning. I want to see you succeeding in your finances, and I want to see you making good decisions. A lot of people will say, well, owning is not a great asset. I agree. There's a lot better things you could do with your cash. 100%. I could go down that road with you. If your alternative is being homeless. But most people are not saying buy a home or go homeless. They're saying buy a home or rent. And if you compare buying a home to renting instead of buying a home or taking it and putting it in the S&P 500, buying is hands down better than renting. So whenever you hear somebody say buying is not a great asset, your response mentally should be, if compared to homelessness, yes. But when compared to renting, no brainer. Buying makes sense, assuming you're there for 2.5 to 3.5 years or more. I got a comment from one of my favorite gals in the world, Carol Morris. Good morning, Joe. Have a wonderful day. Who doesn't like that? That's pretty doggone awesome, man. Spreading some love. I appreciate you, Carol. I hope you have an amazing day, my friend. All right, guys, there you go. There's the Florida Treasure Coast market update, going through some specific numbers. Please tell me that's helpful, man. I want to see in the comments that you listened to this. It was helpful. Man, if somebody tells me it changed their mind and they're going to buy, even without me, I don't care. I want to see you winning. Let me know in the comments. That would make my day. And if you've got something you'd like me to dig into in next Wednesday's Florida Treasure Coast market update, let me know in the comments or in a private DM on Facebook, and I'm happy to do it. Guys, have a phenomenal Wednesday. Take care.